The Faith and Fishing podcast is sponsored by 413 Lure Company. 413 Lure Company is a family-owned and operated business that puts Christ first and does things the right way. Using really high-quality components, they make some really awesome spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, bladed swim jigs, and more in some really sweet color combinations. Check them out on Facebook to see what they can do and place your order today. Welcome to the Faith and Fishing podcast, where you get to hear all kinds of fishermen tell their stories and share their faith. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing podcast. As always, I'm your host Cam, and also as always, we have another really awesome interview with another really awesome guest for y'all this week. Before we jump into the episode, I want to give a big thank you to everyone who's been listening, and I want to remind you all to share the podcast on your social media to help others find the show and hopefully get a lot out of it. I have to say, I have gotten so much out of the show so far just from being able to talk with everyone I've been blessed enough to speak with so far. I've grown as a fisherman just learning from the anglers I've talked to, and I won't say I've rediscovered my love of God doing this podcast because that never left, but I will say it has reignited my passion for God. So as usual, I'm really pumped about this week's guest, and it's time to jump into the interview. So let's get him introduced. One of the most unexpected things about doing this podcast for me has been connecting with people just down the road in my own state, and this week's guest is one of those people. He's a rod builder right here in North Carolina and owner of Mots Custom Rods and Reels, where he builds custom rods and services all kinds of reels. His name is Wes Motsinger. Wes, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, man. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners? Tell us a little bit about you and about Mott's Custom Rods and Reels.
Well, I'm here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Build custom rods as well as repairing rods and repair reels and super tuning reels. Just actually went from being a hobby to actually a full-time gig now. So it's been pretty good. The Lord's blessed me with a lot of things. Even with this difficult time right now with the stuff that's going on with the coronavirus and everything, I'm still getting orders in. So it's been really great for us still.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your rods and what makes them special.
Well, I mean, mostly it's just using the best components you can possibly get, and using the best cork. If a person wants cork on a rod. So what a lot of times I do is I buy all my cork and get it from Portugal. And so what I'll do is I'll, get it and set it up however the guy wants to, or the lady wants to have the rod built. And, it's just a lot better quality stuff. Just the guides, the reel seats. A lot of the stuff I'm getting is like at least a year to a year and a half before a lot of manufacturers get it. So it's been pretty good doing that kind of things. So you get a lot of new technologies coming out before it even hits factory floors.
Okay, absolutely. And so do you deal mainly in bass rods or offshore rods, surf rods? What's your specialty?
Really, I'm going from everywhere from fly fishing from the mountains and ultralight stuff all the way to offshore stuff. Basically, right now I'm basing everything off of bass stuff because we're middle of the state of North Carolina, so we do a lot of bass stuff. We do a lot of flat trout fishing up in the mountains. So it's pretty good that way. And then being in the center of the state, I get a lot of reel repair for the coast. So it's been good. Also, I get a lot of getting ready to come out in this. Here probably in a month and a half, 2 months. Good Lord willing, I'm gonna try to go with my own bass line of rods. So that's coming out. I'm prototyping it next week, so it'll be kind of cool.
Awesome. And so you mentioned you do reel repair. Do you build reels as well, or you just tune them up and repair
them? I just tune them up, rebuild them, clean them, things like that. I don't build the reel from raw components or nothing, but I do do bearing upgrades, drag upgrades, going from like the old just fiber disc to not the felt disc is what they used to come out with, and using carbon fiber, and polishing insides and things like that, get them sped up. So it's a pretty good deal on that kind of stuff to really you don't get a lot of super tuning jobs, but you do get it on like the crankbait and stuff like that. People really want to throw that long distance, um, to get that crankbait as low and long as run you can get through there. Also do just cleaning the spinning reels, things like that. So it's a pretty good deal though.
Okay, absolutely, man. So, um, how did you get into fishing?
Actually, my dad and my great uncle, they used to take me crappie fishing, and we'd go down to High Rock Lake and we'd crappie fish, um, and then my uncle, we'd go down with him also to the coast and pier fish a lot, surf fish. So that was really my exposure to it was that. So I did a lot of. My great grandparents owned a bunch of land over towards High Point area, so I always fished over there. We had a pond there, so I was kind of spoilt of being able to fish pretty much any time I wanted to in any afternoon and catch 4 or 5 pound bass every time you went. So it was pretty cool to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. So, let's get into it in a nutshell. Tell us what it is that you believe in.
I believe in every bit of the gospel, everything, the whole Bible itself. Whatever, whatever the Bible says, I take it to the T. I don't try to say, well, today's times are different. That we should do this different than we did, 2,000 years ago. This is a different time. It really doesn't matter. What it says is what it says, and you just whatever you read in there, any kind of scripture, doesn't matter if it says, like right now, you read a lot, about fear. It's like I was reading the other night. It said, do the birds worry about where they're going to be fed? And I was sitting out here yesterday and just watching the birds and watching the animals, and they're still eating. They're still going. You don't see a bird walking around with his head hung low and because he can't find no food. The Lord's providing for that bird. He's going to provide for a human being.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. So, if you will, go ahead, tell us a story of how it is that you came to believe in the Bible, how you came to trust it, and how you came to believe what you believe.
All right. Well, quite a bit of there's two really good stories for me that I've came in and being a closer to God. I've always believed, I was always brought up in a church, so it was always kind of known that you did. But when you get older, you really accept it. Just being a kid, accepting is different than living life and seeing what he can do in your life. I remember this. I was in first or second grade in elementary school, and there was a boy named Jonathan, and I remember he was he was really Christian. His mom was really Christian. Actually, her and my mom actually worked together at a daycare. And he asked me, if I believed in God, and I said, yeah. And he was, well, you want to be saved? And I said, well, yeah. Second grade, and I remember we doing the prayer, and me accepting Jesus as my Savior, and I remember that just like it was yesterday. But when I became, an adult and really finding God more was when my dad got real bad sick. My dad's got diabetes. And what happened was he had a sore on his foot and it got infected and he thought he had it healed up, but it was still infected. But it ended up doing was, putting an infection in his back on his spine. It made an infection sac and it actually paralyzed him from the waist down. And me and my dad, we've pretty much been together. Everything we do, fish. I was in it one time in the racing. Did a lot of NASCAR stuff with Richard Childress Racing and Patty's and Michael Waltrip, different teams. So my dad was always, pretty much my best friend. But my dad got real bad sick and ended up getting paralyzed from waist down. And I'll tell you, those long nights of worrying, that's what brought me closer to God. Me and my wife were going to church at the time. We hadn't had our first son yet, and I mean, I always believed, but that's when I really accepted God. When I accepted Jesus right then is when I felt like I was more at ease. And it's still, it's still the problems was there, but I knew somebody was there with me. And, we've talked about it in my Sunday school class at church that I teach. Some people at hard times will actually, try to, ask God why, or whatever it may be. And actually push God away when there's bad times. But for me, I feel like when I've got bad times, I feel like I come closer to God. And that's just the way I am, but that's really it. I mean, I really became to be a Christian with my dad when he got real bad sick. I did a lot of heavy praying, and that's really it for me.
And what do you think it is that brought you closer to God instead of pushing you farther away from God whenever the rough times happen?
Honestly, it's my wife. My wife, my wife is the best thing I've ever had happened to me. Other than obviously, accepting Jesus. But my wife, she's really, really pushed me on things, to be able to, you know, she'll always have that thing in the back of your mind that she's always telling you something. And she's a very common knowledge person, and just very common sense and just very Christian. And, she just seems like she was the one that helped me through, and she helped me through a ton of it, because obviously I didn't have my dad to fall back on, because he was in that situation. And my mom, I really didn't, at times she was so overwhelmed with everything, I didn't need to bring more stuff on her. So my wife she's my rock in my family here. She's super super supportive of me. It's just like the other day, we talked about, I was like, well, I went out on my own here, I'm trying to, first weekend was great, and the second week is when the coronavirus shut down and everything really happened here. And I was like, well, this probably ain't the best idea to ever come up with. And she said, just pray about it. And every time we pray, we just get another order. So that's, I mean, that's just great. It's, you've got to feel it, and to be able to see it and feel it like that, that's just even better for me.
Absolutely. So, how long has building rods been a full-time thing for you?
Building rods, 2000, let's see here, 2016 of April, 2016. Uh, um, I left a race team that was down in Charlotte called Chip Ganassi Racing. And honestly, I was working around anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day. And, at the time, I'd worked, I was working 5 days a week like that. Some things happened, and it was wanting to keep going like that. And I said, you know what, I've just had about enough, so I ended up leaving, and went to work for Terry Labonte and Bobby Labonte building dirt cars. But it was a gig that we really didn't know if it was going to work out. We knew it was going to work out. We just didn't know how long, because uncertainty of getting orders. We were building dirt cars for teams all over, really, the country. So I ended up, it's actually dirt late models is what we built. And so anyways, on top of the building rods before, I always built rods really since 2008. And doing reels as well before that. I ended up just, I told the wife, I said, well, we'll go to work there, and then whatever we need to supplement, we can work on rod and reel stuff too. And, it kind of trickled along, never really took off, not really hard, not a lot of business, enough to go on full time. But in the last year and a half, 2 years now, it's just been really phenomenal how much business I'm getting, which, the more you're in business, the more people find out about you. But another thing is, a lot of the older folks that was doing rod and reel repair have all retired or passed on. So I'm getting a lot of their old business. A lot of them actually refer their customers to me, which is great too. But it just seems like, the more, like literally right now, from here to Raleigh, Winston-Salem and Raleigh, there's really nobody, maybe one other guy's doing reel repair. And really from here to the mountains, it's pretty much here to Nashville, of rod reel repair. it's actually pretty good. So it's kind of cool to be able to be the only one, but at times it's like, wow, I'm the only one doing this. I got a lot of work to do,
Right.
But at times, I wish I wish I had somebody working for me. And then there's times I'm like, man, I'm glad I ain't, 'cause, try to find something for them to do every day, But it's been good.
All right, man. Sorry to kind of go on a little tangent there, but so uh, what does it mean to you to have faith?
To have faith. Um, my biggest thing is not walking in the dark. You're walking in the light of Jesus. And if you walk in the light of Jesus and how you do things, I feel like you're not walking in the dark. And that's the faith. The faith is believing in, obviously, the Lord, but believing that He's going to take care of you. Now, He's not going to give you everything. You got to do it on your own. But, if you believe, you have the faith and truly believe in your heart. I mean, not just saying, okay, God, I accept you. I mean, really having it in your heart. And you'll know it. The person will know it as soon as they believe. As soon as they really gave everything over their life to the Lord, they'll truly believe right then.
All right. We're going to start transitioning back towards fishing a little bit here. Are there any specific times out on the water that have affected your faith in any way?
Yeah, there's it's been a couple times. um, I fished a lot. When I was it was by 2007. I was probably the most peace I'd ever been in fishing. Was when actually my grandfather had passed away. And there you go again. It's going to the bad times of somebody's life, but I always feel like I'm always closer to God when things are going bad for me. Um, but I know when I was down there fishing, I was fishing at High Rock one day, and I was like, I'm gonna go do a little bass fishing. I thought, nah, I'll crappie fish today, and I was just kind of just trolling along there, crappie fishing, and it was probably one of my best days just because my grandpa had just passed away that week. He had had a stroke in 1999. He had a stroke, and I really became a better Christian. I feel like at that time too, as well, even before my dad got sick. But just fishing, I was sitting out there on the lake, and I felt like I was fishing with my grandpa at that point. I really felt like he was right there with me. And then I've also been on some fishing trips out in the ocean. Thought, Lord, if you can get me back to land, I will never sin again. And that was this past year in the Pamlico Sound fishing for drum. It was pretty it was pretty hairy out there. And I thought, goodness gracious, if we can get out of here tonight, we'll be all right.
I hear you. Now, are you fishing out of a boat or out of a kayak, or what are you fishing out of?
Well, I fished out of a boat. I had quite a different boats over time. I have some skiffs that I fished out of, which I fished down at the coast and around here as well. Pretty versatile boat. And then fished out of a bass boat for quite a few years. Bass fishing. I was doing bass fishing trails for a while there. So it was a 20-foot nitro it was a 200 Johnson GT, which is it was a 92 and a 93. Motor was 93 and the boat was a 92, I believe. And actually just sold it last year. And right now we're boatless, so we're not boat poor no more though. So we're just been looking around to get another one. But I do a lot. Honestly, I do a lot more surf fishing now than I ever did that, and trout fishing up the mountains. I do a lot up there, and I've got a few ponds I hit, my uncles and stuff like that. Me and my son, one of them's almost 3 and the other one's 7. So me and him, we're always fishing together. Actually, me and him went last Thursday up the mountains and just went fishing up there between Wilkesboro and Boone. So it's pretty cool up there in the delayed harvest water.
All right. So this next question has become one of my favorite ones of the whole interview. I've gotten some of the best answers off of this one. What fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Fishing story. Me and my dad fishing High Rock Lake. It was probably about 2011. Me and him went down and fished. It was High Rock. We was up in Flat Swamp, and there was back then there wasn't no houses up there in Flat Swamp really yet. There's more up there now than it used to be. But me and him went up there, and Dad said, "Let's just go get some minnows. We'll go crappie fishing." I said, "Okay." So he got the minnows, and it was spring of the year. It's about this time of year, maybe almost in April, maybe. And we was going up through there and just picking off piers and nothing really picking up, just one here and there. And the next thing I know, we're sitting dead on a brush pile. And me and him, actually, when we went to the tackle shop, bait shop, and got minnows. Minnows was he said, "We'll just get 3 dozen because we ain't gonna fish all day. We'll just get some minnows and we'll fish for a little bit. Come on back home." I said, "All right." Well, the guy in front of us ordered 6 dozen. We got 3 dozen. Me and that guy had the same bucket, and we left. And Dad says, "Oh no!" And I said, "What?" He says, "I think we got the other guy's bucket." He said, "We got more than 3 dozen in here." And I thought, well, dang, we'll never find that other guy where he's at. So, anyways, we went to fishing. We went through all 6 dozen minnows, and then ended up scrounging around in the boat to make sure we could find another minnow. And we were using minnows, and we limited out. And actually, the last crappie I caught was like 17 inches long. It was a huge crappie, and that was probably one of my most memorable fishing trips. That and actually me and my cousin fishing down at Bogue Inlet Pier, and this is I don't even know when this was, maybe 2008, somewhere around there in the fall, and it was around Halloween weekend. And me and my cousin and actually 2 or 3 others, we ended up catching 140 whiting one night off the pier while a tropical storm was way off the coast, and it was brutal. It was just a brutal storm out there, but we ended up catching 140 whiting that night, and that was pretty epic too.
Absolutely. Did you end up frying any of them up?
Oh yeah, we actually kept 140. I don't know how many we threw back on top of that. We went through we was fishing with shrimp that night. I don't know how much shrimp we went through. It was it was a bunch of shrimp we went through and a lot of fish. And we was about the only, there was maybe 10 of us on the end of that pier that night because it was so rough. And actually on the sound side, it was real calm because the island was, blocking the wind. It was an Emerald, Bogue Inlet Pier. And my uncle and them used to flounder gig a lot. And I remember they flounder gigged that night, and they said they limited out on flounder back there. It was all around just a great time.
I hear you. All right, man. So, this next question actually comes from my fishing buddy. I asked him to think of a question he's never heard asked on another podcast, fishing podcast. So this is what he came up with. Whenever you're out fishing with a fishing buddy, what is your typical conversation centered around?
Mostly, why'd you keep getting hung in the tree? No, usually we try to, like you say, if it's me and my son, I'm trying to show him how to use a new reel. He's using open face spinning stuff now. So we're trying to talk about that kind of stuff and just have a good time, So I get to go, when I go in fishing now, it's not even like it used to be. So I'm with my son, which is better than anything really. But try to teach him the right way of doing things, not obviously leaving stuff, leaving trash, things like that. Pick up after yourself, and lead as example on somebody. Don't go out and just try to you don't have to like me and him actually went last Thursday, and he said, "Well, I didn't catch one." I said, "Yeah, you did." I gave him the rod and let him bite it in. And he said, well, he wants to catch one on his own. And who doesn't want to, right? But, I told him the other day, I was like, when we was on the way back, I said, honestly, I was like, it don't matter how many fish you catch. It's just being out in nature, being out in God's world, what he's created. And it's just, that's what I like doing. I don't even have to catch fish. I'd rather have a good cast on fly fishing and have a good cast and, good mend all the way down the river than even catching fish a lot of times, just being out there for me. in the conversations, me and my son, we talk about, everything. I mean, and obviously a 7-year-old, this conversation can go from about as, anybody can, you can be talking about anything. It can be all over the place. But, me and him, I try to teach him, obviously learn from the Bible. And that's one thing I'm really blessed with, that he's really done well with is accepting Jesus himself. He's really good kid, and and this kind of going off the subject here, but this is where it shows his faith, and I wish adults could have the faith. I wish I could have the faith that he has sometimes. But one day, it was about a month ago or so now, they had tornado warnings all around here, and it was pretty hairy there at one time. We had a lot of storms coming through during the day. It was right at like lunchtime, I think, right when they was going to let them out, actually, because they were going to let them out early that day. And anyways, they were all hunkered down in the tornado drill position in the hallway. And a little boy beside my son, Will, little boy was crying, and my little boy said, or my Will said to him, he says, it's going to be all right. He says, Jesus is with us. And I wish, at times that I could be like, wow, man, you learn a lot right then. That, wow, for a 7-year-old, why at 39 can I be like that? We can learn a lot from a kid, and just learning by faith. I mean, he's never seen nothing. He hasn't really had experience of hard times or, great times yet. He just knows every day is a fun day. But to be able just to have that faith, that's just great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you mentioned you're a father. What life advice do you wish you had been able to start off with, and that you want your kids to be able to take on with them?
My biggest thing, and this is one thing that my dad really never taught me, and it's not, his fault or nothing, but I wish my dad would have taught me more about prayer, and learning how to pray, and we've talked about it quite a few times at our church and in my Sunday school class and things. It's not how you pray, and it says in the Bible, don't be like the sinners, don't be like the hypocrites, and just do, saying what you're supposed to say. If it's truly coming from your heart, say it, you know what I mean? So there's things like, though, that just being, not being bashful, not being shy, just stand up and pray, when you got to a church or anywhere you go. And that was one thing that I wish I would have learned more of. And that's like my son. I try to show him, every night we go to bed and try to pray with him. And then he'll, he has it in him. Once you make it a routine, it's easy. But it, 30 some years old, it's hard to try to learn. I feel like. So that's one thing I want to pass on, and just not even really just to my son, but in my Sunday school class, I've got, we've running around 12 to 15 people in our Sunday school class, was till they've, we start having to cancel church right now. But, I wish people could pray. And that was the thing. I really wish people could go, just say what they mean and block out what other people think. Just pray. And that's the, it's the hard thing to do, but it's the best thing to do.
And do you have any tips for anyone who's not really comfortable with it in terms of overcoming that shyness or that kind of uneasiness about it?
Start out small, in a small group, because you don't want to start out in a congregation of 150, if you're not comfortable with it. So that's my big thing. It's been about 5 years ago, actually, I got on the deacon board at our church. And at the time, the reason I was nominated at 34 years old or whatever I was at the time, 34, was we didn't have enough members, period. And that's how I got on the deacon board. And I was like, well, I'm really not worthy enough to do this kind of job. I mean, I don't, why am I even on this? But but being on there, I felt like that it really helped me out a lot in my prayer. So every we had like at that time we had like 6 or 7 of us on the deacon board. So what it done was it went in rotation. At the end of service, one of us had to pray. So it went in rotation like at every 7 weeks she was on it or whatever it be. And that helped me a ton, I got to have a prayer ready, you know. And so a lot of times, I had some guys tell me, well, just look, man, just, write down something so you don't, go up there and just sound like like you're blubbering around, you don't know what to say. Have some little notes you can look at while you're praying, or just right before you pray, you can remember, you know what I mean? Because otherwise, we get to praying on things and you just don't, you won't remember to, what you were supposed to pray for. You may have somebody that, like in my Sunday school class, I'll ask, does anybody, we'll start off in prayer and we'll end in prayer. But before we even start, I'll ask, does anybody have any prayer requests? And I'll write them down so we have them. It's not, well, I'm going to ask you, but I really don't care type deal. I want to know, who do we need to pray for here this week? Somebody's uncle, somebody's aunt, somebody's mom, somebody's neighbor, somebody we heard about. I want to pray for them. And that's the biggest thing. But just starting out small and just working up. That's really honestly the best thing I feel like is being able to not, don't jump into a big crowd trying to pray if you're not comfortable. Start out small.
All right. And to flip it around a little bit, what fishing advice do you wish you had been able to start off with and that you want your kids to be able to take on with them?
Oh, I wish I knew more at a younger age on crankbaiting. That was, there's a lot of things, there's quite a few different things, but I want to pass on to my kids and other people just, being safe on the water, period. You can go out there and have the best day, but in a boat have a wreck and just turn it all around. Just watch out, be a defensive driver when you're, coming across the lake. You never know who somebody's going to jet ski or whatever it may be, or another fisherman or whatever. You got to watch out. I've fished a lot of night tournaments back in the day at Baden Lake, and I'll tell you, there's some hairy situations down there at night that, there was some, we was coming across there one night. I remember having a spotlight, and I would just shine that spotlight every so often across the water, just as we were going up there. We weren't running 70 mile an hour or nothing. We were running there like 30, and just coming across through there. And there's enough houses on the lake that you can see, they got enough light on the water. You can see some stuff. And, lo and behold, I about hit a guy in a canoe out there in the middle of the night. It was like 12 o'clock at night, canoe. No lights on, nothing. Just out there paddling across. That was a little, you really get to thinking, wow, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's the biggest thing for me. Boating safety.
All right. So, what fish sits at the top of your bucket list in terms of fish to catch?
I would say redfish on the fly, red drum on the fly. That's my bucket list. That's where I want to go this year. I'm building some rods for that to go down to Hatteras and Ocracoke area, fishing the flats on the backside of the island in the summertime and early fall. So that's my biggest thing. I've caught a lot of redfish, a lot of red drum, whatever you want to call them. But I really like to do it on the fly. That's my goal for my bucket list, and that's my bucket list really for this year. If we can get her back to going in the country wise, we can go back down there fishing.
All right. What about a fishing spot? Is there a particular fishing spot that sits at the top of your bucket list?
Fishing spot. Tuckertown Lake was a good one. In bass fishing, that was bass fishing at Tuckertown Lake. That was probably my best, some of my best fishing days on that lake, from quantity and quality fish. I fished that place really good back in the day. And I always loved fishing High Rock as well, but Tuckertown was, there's some spots back in there on some creeks and stuff is just phenomenal. And they actually sprayed for the Tuckertown's got a real bad algae. It's like, I don't know, it's just nasty black stuff. I don't even know what they really even call it. But the state went in there and actually sprayed it to kill it off. And when they went in there and kill it all off and sprayed it, they ended up killing all the grass that was on the bank. And that place went to really, it didn't fish the same as it used to. But before that, when it was still grass, that was some of the best fishing, and it still is. I got them still even marked on my GPS as I've still got left on my cards and stuff. There was some spots back in there that were just, you get in there and just hammer them. I mean, we had 50, 60 trout, or 50 to 60 bass a day. It was really neat being able to get in there and just really hammer on them like that.
All right. Well, we have a segment here that is pretty self-explanatory, but it's called "What's Your Favorite?" And I'll be asking you your favorite in a few different categories here. So, do you have a favorite scripture?
Uh, yeah. Mine would be in Matthew 6:1. Be careful not to do your acts of righteousness before men to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. And it says in Matthew 6:2 as well. It says, so when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by men. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. In Matthew 6:3 it says, but when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in the secret. Then your Father who sees this is done in the secret and will reward you. And that's my biggest, one of my I guess you would say, one of my favorite verses, because simple fact is, don't be like, look what I did, you know what I mean? Obviously, that's what it's saying. Don't be, look what I did for this person here, just do it and go on with your life, and it'll always come back tenfold.
Absolutely. So, do you have a favorite Bible story?
And I don't know which verse it is in, but it's talking about when Jesus is on the cross, and and he's asking, Lord, why are you forsaking me? Why are you doing this to me? And that's that point, though, that it's just the pain. You can feel the pain out of those verses in that, saying, Lord, why are you doing this to me? For the simple fact is, that's how much pain he was in, that he was dying on the cross for our sins. That's how much pain he took for us. It's not like he just died and arose the next, 3 days later. It's not that. It's not, there's really no, I guess you'd say, it's not like he just died and that was it. I mean, that was a pain. That was distinguishing pain for somebody to have to go through that. And that, and to be nailed to a cross. That's just faith. To be able to die for people that you don't even know, 2,000 years later, that are still needing you. That's just that's God in the flesh, is what it is.
Absolutely. So, what's your favorite fish to catch?
My favorite fish to catch? Let's see here. I would say, for the best pull, fishing, I would say a red drum, puppy drum in the surf. That's some I like. That's what I really target the most. So that's really a lot of fun for me.
Okay. And what's your favorite fish to fish for?
Favorite fish to fish for is I actually really like going after wild trout. That's my biggest fun time for me. I really like going deep into fishing like up in the woods of, say, like around Boone or even the Great Smoky Mountains, places like that. And that's what I'm really wanting to do more this year as well. I want to go and fish more, not stocked waters, because it just gets beat to death. I want to go where, you got to hike a good, half a mile to a mile in the woods and go fish. That's most rewarding for me, and that's what I like targeting. Native brook trout, obviously, wild rainbows and wild browns. I really like going after that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And what's your favorite fish to eat?
Favorite fish to eat would be a whiting, what you call a whiting or a Virginia mullet. That's my favorite fish to eat. Actually, which I don't know if North Carolina is going to change regulations on that, but that's a closest. I like red drum. Obviously a puppy drum. That 18 to 27 inch slot you got to keep. But a whiting is just, it tastes a lot like drum, but you can keep more of them.
Right.
And the regulations aren't so crazy on it.
And how do you like it cooked?
Fry. We like to fry our fish.
For sure, yeah. Whiting is one of my favorites on a sandwich. That's a good one right there.
It is. I mean, you really can't beat it.
All right, so while we're on the subject of food, what's your favorite fishing snack?
Favorite fishing snack? I guess just the old pack of nabs. I'm pretty simple on things, on food wise. I like what they call a pack of nabs, which is the cheese crackers with peanut butter. Just Lance crackers. They're good.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say it for any of our listeners what nabs were, but if they didn't already know.
Yeah.
So you like the cheese with the peanut butter?
Yeah.
All right. And I won't ask for any secret spots or GPS coordinates or anything, but what's your favorite body of water to fish on?
Favorite body of water to fish on? Honestly, High Rock Lake in the middle of summer, and I mean the hottest it can get. July, August. That is when that's when I'd honestly make money. Bass fishing tournaments. That was, when it got the hottest it got. I mean, it had to be, 90, 95 degrees, water temperatures, bubbling at 95, 90 to 95 itself. That is some of the best fishing that I've ever done on a lake. It was High Rock, and a lot of people struggled on that place, the hotter it got like that. But, that was when I'd fish club tournaments. So springtime, I was hit or miss. Depending on when the cold front come through, and it always seemed like the cold front came through on a Friday night or a Saturday night, so it really messed up your next day fishing. I always felt like, it was like Monday was great, but summertime, you just get that same pattern. It's the same, thunderstorm. That's really it. And I'd get down there, and actually I'd fish Abbott's Creek. I stayed in Abbott's Creek, and I would stay back in there from the time we took off till the time we got done for the day, and I would just sit there and I had actually about 6 spots back there, and 2 of them had springs on it, where I was fishing at, and I found these springs years ago, and I would just find them springs, and I would sit there and just fish them springs, and they actually had rock veins on them as well. And honestly, you'd pull a limit off a fish that morning, and then you would go hit another spot, and you would just sit there and all you're doing is making rounds. And that one spot, when you start off with that morning, it would always replenish throughout the day. Another set of fish would move up, and they'd sit up on that spring, and it was pretty wicked up there. It was pretty fun times.
Absolutely. And last but not least, what's your favorite time of year to fish?
Fall. I do, as I get older and fatter, I don't like the heat, but I do, I do like fishing in the fall. I like it when it's, getting down in the nights of, 40 to 50 and daytime temperatures up, no really over, over 70. I like fall fishing at the coast. Fish are moving and, that's some of the best times. I really like that in the fall.
All right, well, we're going to start wrapping things up here. If you will, let us know what is upcoming for you and for Mott's Custom Rods and Reels. I know you said you had a new line of bass rods getting ready to come out that you're looking into, and tell us a little bit more about that and what to expect from you.
Well, hopefully, here in the next, well, we got to just see what the economy holds here in the next few months. But going to try to come out with these rods. It's going to be made in the United States. It's going to be made here in North Carolina. I'm building them. It's not going to be something I just put my name on and sell it. It's coming out of China. Going to be using some really good sensitive blanks that are durable blanks that you ain't got to worry about. So that's going to be a really, really neat deal. What it's going to have is it's going to be actually, I worked in racing for years and I was in the aerodynamics department, which was what back then would be called body hangers. And, we put bodies on race cars. So in this first line of rods I'm going to build, it's going to be called, Aero. And, just like aerodynamics, but Aero. And, they'll be coming out. Like I say, I'm starting to prototype them this week, this upcoming week. We're getting all that going. Got everything in. We are doing a little bit of having some hiccups with getting supplies in from Washington State. A couple of manufacturers and suppliers are all down right now. So the ones that are still open, they're swamped. So it's taking some time to get everything in, but it'll give me some time to actually catch up on the reel repair as well that I need to get done and out of here. And other customers and custom rods. Right now we got 6 rods we've got to build for customers, and plus the repairs that just keep coming in every day, which is great. So but the line of rods is really I really think it's gonna shine. We're gonna start off with, right now we're gonna have 3 casting rods and then 2 spinning rods, but that'll be we'll see how that all works out. But I feel like that's gonna be it's going to be a medium heavy and a heavy action and a crankbaiting rod as well. And then plus on the spinning stuff, it'll be like a medium or medium light and a medium rods. So that will be from everything from shaky head to jerk baits to everything we can do on this 5 rod series. And then as we see how it works out, we're going to, go to here, do more flipping sticks or more crankbait and stuff. We got some blanks as well that maybe try to rush in and try to get them done as well for crankbaiting, like DD22s and stuff like that, and DTs, real deep diving crankbait rods. So we'll try to get maybe that going too as well before summer strikes and then when everybody's really deep diving crankbaiting.
Okay, and whenever you get a custom order, how long does it take from order to shipping, typically?
Okay. From from the time we get the order and to the time and it's shipped it out and it's coming in and everything, it's about 3 weeks. It depends. Some rods aren't. The guy says, "Look, I don't want nothing fancy. I just want a basic rod, but I want you to build it because he wants just the spines built in the right location on the rod, whatever it may be for sensitivity or fighting the fish itself." So it depends, but for your average rod, it's about 2 to 2.5 weeks, really.
Okay. All right. So do you have any sponsors or supporters that you would like to give a shout out to?
I do a lot of work and I'm a pro staff for American Tackle out of Florida. And they sell everything from rod blanks to the guides. They sell a lot of what they call microwave guides. They're the ones that came out with those years ago. And that's what I'll have on my rods as well in this edition. So we got the microwave, American Tackle. they support me 100%. So, and I support them. I got some really good people down there that's really taking care of people. They also sell, worms and, jigs and stuff like that as well. Not jigs, but, soft plastics and line as well. So they've really ventured out more than just the rod building. They also do an angler pro staff as well. And they actually came out with a line of reels, which I haven't messed with yet. I still partial to lose reels. They're to probably lose is your best reel on this market right now. Just for the simplicity of the reel and just the performance and the easiness of the reel to repair and the customer service. You can't beat lose reels.
All right. And if our listeners want to get in touch with you or follow you on social media or find out more about Mott's Custom Rods and Reels, how do they find you?
On the internet, we've got Mott's Custom Rods webs.com, and then we also got Mott's Custom Rods and Reels is on Facebook, and then there's also a Mott's Custom Rods on Instagram as well.
All right. Well, Wes, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we'll look forward to everything that you got coming out.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Again, I want to thank Wes for coming on the show and telling his story. If you want to learn more about Wes and Mott's Custom Rods and Reels, check out facebook.com/Mott's Custom Rods or go to motscustomrods.webs.com. Always remember that if you would like to be on the show or would like to hear from someone in particular, reach out on Facebook, Instagram, or email me at faith_fish@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Y'all take care and God bless. Thanks for listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. If you like this episode, please give it a rating, a review, and make sure to subscribe on whatever app you're listening to so you never miss an episode. You can follow the podcast on social media at facebook.com/faithandfishingpodcast and Instagram at faithandfishingpod. Special thanks and a big shout out to our show sponsor, 413 Lure Company, to Jonathan Enthalancy for helping me write, play, and record the music for the show, and to Tyler Worrell, the graphic designer behind our amazing logo. If you have any questions about faith, I encourage you to contact a pastor in your community. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, get out there and catch some fish, and I will catch you on the next episode.